So we saw old Aatrox versus new Aatrox and how Raya decided to kill old Aatrox. Yesterday we were watching how Aatrox is roasting absolutely everyone in the game. So let's see the story of Aatrox explained, because we don't know his story. And when it comes down to lore, Necrit is number one who is explaining the lore. So always go to Necrit. So let's see.
Whether mistaken for a demon or god, many tales have been told of the Darkened Blade, but few know his real name, or the story of his fall. Hello everyone and welcome to another story you are probably too lazy to read.
Actually, sure, this is why we're here. Imagine reading, bro, just imagine.
This time we will have a look at Aatrox, the Darkin, and where the Darkin came from. So...
Wait, do you want to tell me he has an entire book? No, there's no way there's an entire book based on Aatrox alone. Probably that covers the entire universe. And Aatrox has a couple of pages, maybe.
Because probably at this point you are waiting for far too long, let's go right into it. In ancient times, long before desert sand swallowed the empire, a mighty champion of Shurima was brought before the sun disk to become the avatar for a now forgotten celestial ideal. Remade as one of the Ascended, his wings were the golden light of dawn, and his armor sparkled like a constellation of hope from beyond the Great Veil. Aatrox was his name.
So you want to tell me, hold on, this description, perfectly fits his Justicar skin, no? Imagine that's the skin, that's how he looked before he became corrupted. Not bad, so that explains a thing or two.
We are only few sentences into the story and it is already important to note that we are indeed talking about the Shuriman Ascended. Notice how their description is very close to that of the Targonians. You have the wings of Aatrox that are sparkling with constellations, and then you have the cloak of Pantheon that is shimmering with stars. As we go forward...
Wait, Pantheon's cloak is shimmering with stars? Where's the thing? No, wait, that's also, by the way, old Pantheon. No way. I never noticed that. We cannot see the cloak in here. Okay, maybe in here? Nope. Nope. I have a feeling, okay, he has a cloak, but that's Percy of Pantheon. Yeah, at the bottom. Where at the bottom? Am I blind? I feel like I am blind in the video. Where do you see the stars? It's fire. It's not stars. These are fire, bro.
Cloak of Pantheon that is shimmering with stars. As we go forward in these stories, notice how they are very similar indeed. He was at the vanguard of every noble conflict. So true and just was his conduct that other god warriors would always gather at his side. And
just notice the word, yeah, which means that is exactly correct. That skin is treated how this Aatrox looked before the corruption. That's the OG Aatrox, gotcha.
10,000 mortals of Shurima marched behind him. When Setaka, the Ascended Warrior Queen, called for his help against the rebellion of Icathia,
Setaka, imagine in the name there has to be two A's. Setaka, wait, hold on, we need to Google that. Not Soraka, bro, Setaka. Maybe Setaka. Nope, cannot find anything. She does not exist, sadly.
Aatrox answered without hesitation. But no one predicted the extent of the horrors that the rebels would unleash. The
Soraka with a double A thing. Bro, imagine Soraka being a Darkin. Oh my god, it'd be so amazing.
Void quickly overwhelmed its Icathian masters and began the grinding annihilation of all life it encountered. After many years of desperate battle, Aatrox and his brethren finally halted the Void's perverse advance and sealed the largest rifts shut. But the surviving Ascended, the self-described Sunborn, had been forever changed by what they had encountered. Though Shurima had triumphed, they all had lost something in their victory, even noble Aatrox. And in time, Shurima fell.
What do you mean, lost him? No, he got slightly corrupted, that's it. Also, you feel like we need to bring the map to visualize what's happening in here. I feel like we need a map. Can we get some HD? I guess it's good enough. Can we get some HD, better HD map? Give me a second, chat. Yeah, we're not getting HD, are we? Nope. Or maybe we can get some HD. So go for image, flashlight. Okay, yeah. Why is it always the Chinese that have the best quality? Give me a second. Oh, how difficult it is to get proper quality image. Straight up impossible. Anyway, got it. So in Shurima, the battle we're talking about is in here. As at the very bottom in here. Can we see it? I feel like we can see it, yeah. That's the entire desert of Shurima. That's on the very left we go to Mount Targon. Ishtal is the kingdom, but... No, Icathia, yeah. Not Ishtal. Ishtal is the jungle. The kingdom of Icathia was in here. They were very jealous of Shurima. That's why they decided to call the Void to help them deal with Shurima, because Shurima big evil in their eyes. They need to have some help. So they called the Void and this entire region got collapsed. So this is where the fight was taking place. I know everything, chat.
All empires must. So, we have the Shuriman Ascended fighting back the Void, and those who survived called themselves the Sunborn. But even though they had won, they were changed by these horrors. I hope you see where this is going.
Slight corruption,
Without any monarch to defend, or the existential threat of the Void to test them, Aatrox and the Sunborn began to clash with one another. And
yeah, so they killed the Void, there is no Void to deal with, and in Shurima, Empire is collapsing because Zerav decided to betray Azir. So Kingdom kinda collapsed, so there's nothing for them to do.
Eventually, this became a war for the ruins of their world. Mortals fleeing the conflict came to know them instead by a new and scornful name, the Darkin. Fearing that these fallen Ascended were as dangerous to Runeterra's survival as the Void incursions had been, the Targonians intervened. It is said that the aspect of Twilight gave mortals the knowledge to trap the Darkin, and the
Aspect of Twilight is a child, a Zoe, for those of you who don't know, but yeah. Straight up, this is why Aatrox hates her the most.
The newly reborn aspect of war united many in fighting back against them. Never fearing any foe, Aatrox and his armies were ready, and he realized only too late that they had been deceived. A force greater than 1,000 dead suns pulled him inside a sword he had carried into battle countless times, and forever bound his immortal essence to it. The weapon was a prison, sealing his consciousness in suffocating eternal darkness, robbing him even of the ability to die.
Sad, very sad. But bro, I feel like we need that quote. Where is it? Expressional interactions, yeah, that's the one. What is it? He was very angry at the child. He was very angry. I feel like it's in here. There it is, yeah. There is a specific reason he yells at a Zoe.
I know it was you, trickster! You gave them the tools to trap me! Come! Let me kill you! 1,000 times isn't enough!
Yeah, let's just say he doesn't like a child.
For centuries, he strained against this hellish confinement, until some nameless mortal was foolish enough to try and wield the blade once more. Aatrox seized upon this opportunity, forcing his will and an imitation of his original form onto his bearer.
Now the only question I have is why didn't they hide the sword, you know? If we have Lord Voldemort's Horcruxes in here, but instead of Horcrux we have literally the essence of Darken in every single one of the weapons, how about we hide them? You know, how about we do them so we hide them somewhere for safekeeping, so no one can actually touch them. Because there's a tendency for them to break free and destroy the planet.
Though the process quickly drained all life from the new body. In the years that followed, Aatrox groomed many more hosts. Men and women of exceptional vitality and fortitude. Though his grasp of such magics had been limited in life, he learned to take control of a mortal in the span of a single breath. And in battle, he discovered he could feast on his victims to build himself even larger and stronger.
Yep, lore accurate. Aatrox is, bro, the longer he fights, the bigger and stronger he becomes. This is why I feel like one of the first cinematics, or maybe that was the release, you see the cinematic in that trailer maybe. You see Aatrox is actually growing with each kill.
So, to explain everything that happened.
Hold on, where is that clip? The thing in here? Aatrox trailer. This is the one, yeah. Yeah. As you can see, he's kind of small. Yeah, he's starting small. Where's that frame? There it is. That is his size. 1v3. Lore accurate Aatrox, by the way. Already bigger. My boy is growing like where the frames. He was slightly smaller, now he's bigger. Still growing. He was that size. That's only his legs right now. And he became a daddy. Straight up, this is the lore accurate Aatrox. That's what we need in game. Just saying.
You have the Sunborn without an empire and without void spawns to slay. Being already touched by the abyss, it was easier for them to start a war amongst themselves. It was a war for power and for leadership. But again, notice how Targon played a big role in manipulating the Darkin. Pantheon united all the people to fight them back. The aspect of Twilight gave people the means to seal them. And the Darkin were sealed with the power of 1,000 dead suns. And we all know a dragon whose punishment were dead suns. To me it seems like Targon created the Ascended with the purpose of fighting back the Void. But without the Void, the Ascended have no purpose. But that's just a theory, so...
Also another theory is that they got slightly corrupted by fighting the Void. I feel like it was Friedrich Nietzsche, yeah, the philosopher, 19th century philosopher, who said if you stare into abyss, the abyss stares into you. No, if you gaze upon the abyss. Yeah, that's the quote. I feel like Aatrox has the exactly same quote. As he was when he was fighting the Void, he was that golden warrior, but Void was gazing into him as well. So, you know, technically Targon is what created Aatrox and downfall of Aatrox.
Let's keep going. Aatrox traveled the land, searching desperately, endlessly, for a way to return to his previous ascended form. But the riddle of the blade proved unsolvable. And in time, he realized he would never be free of it. The flesh he stole and crudely shaved began to feel like a mockery of his former glory. A cage only slightly larger than the sword. Despair and loathing grew in his heart. The heavenly powers that Aatrox had once embodied had been wiped from the world and all memory. Raging against this injustice, he arrived at a solution that could only be born of a prisoner's desperation. If he could not destroy the blade or free himself, then he would embrace oblivion instead. Now,
So basically, kill everyone, destroy everything. Cough, I'm done. If I'm done, you're done. Straight up Giga Chad.
now Aatrox marches toward this merciless goal, bringing war and death wherever he goes. He clings to a blind hope. If he can drive all of creation into a final apocalyptic battle, where everything else is destroyed, then maybe he and the blade will also cease to exist.
So he just wants to commit Sudoku, but he cannot. He just wants the suffering to end. Oh my god, bro. Bro, now I feel bad for that guy. Chad, did you know that? Did anyone of you actually knew that he's in this scenario, in this suffering, bro? I was under the impression that he would just went full crazy and he started killing people, because why not? But that's not the case. He just wants to end the suffering. Sag.
His bio is followed by a shorter story called Cage, a story from Aatrox's view while sealed inside the blade. Darkness. The breath I cannot take plagues me. It is an emptiness in my lungs and throat, as if I had stopped mid-breath and then held my lungs cruelly waiting. My mouth open, throat hollow, unable to pull in air. My chest, the horrible tension in my throats. My limbs and muscles refuse to move. I cannot breathe. I am choking. The pressure builds. The stillness spreads to my chest and limbs. I want to scream, to tear at my face, to wail, but I am trapped. I cannot move. I cannot move. Darkness. I must remember. I must... The battle. I lost control. It was foolish. The mortals formed in ranks against me. I crashed into them, drank from them. The temptation was too great. As I reaped, I reforged their flesh into a better approximation of my true shape. Desperately, I consumed more and more, hoping for the briefest echo of what I once was.
Now the question is, during the battle, the fallen corpses of the enemies, he is blood-bending them into making a shape for himself, into a new body, into a new vessel. But is it really a vessel, or he is actually trapped in the sword? And that's just the extension, the vessel, the body is just the extension of him. Because definitely that new body is not him. He is in the sword, right? He cannot escape it. Confusing.
Instead, like a fire, I burned too quickly, destroying even my host form. Darkness. It was raining when we fought.
Body extension, yes. It's okay, body extension, got it. The new bodies are Daedal now. Oh yeah, true that. Yeah, that makes sense. But with bloodbending, a little bit of Avatar shenanigans, maybe they're not so dead?
What if the mud and filth cover me? What if I'm hidden for thousands of years? Trapped in this prison. The horror of that idea feeds my panic. The battle is ending. I can feel it. I must will my form upright. I have no arms or legs. The darkness binds me, like a cocoon. No, I will myself upright. But I can't know if it is working. I cannot know anything but the darkness. Please, let some mortal find me, please. I beg the darkness endlessly, but the humiliation of my plea is answered only with silence. But then, I feel a mortal nearby. I have no eyes, no ears, but I can feel his approach. He is fleeing from adversaries. He must try to defend himself. He must grasp me. Can he see me? He could run past me. I would be left here. I feel his hand grip this form and his consciousness opens to me. I burrow into him, pulling
Yeah, so extension, gotcha.
him down. I am like a drowning man thrown into the sea by a shipwreck, dragging myself to the surface by clawing past my fellows. What's happening? The mortal screams, but he is silenced by the darkness. The endless darkness I have just escaped, and I have eyes. I can see the falling rain, the muck, the blood of this slaughtering field.
So he did the old Swaparoo. I'm not 100% sure if he took over the mine or he did the old Swaparoo. That he is now in the human that has been fleeing, and human is in the sword. But if that's the case, if he did the old Swaparoo, all he needs to do is just drop the sword, and he's in the human body. He's alive, but weak, very weak. Feel like he's just taking over his mind, that's it.
In front of me stand two weary knights with spears. I cut them apart and drink in their forms, recrafting this body to my needs. They are weak. I must move quickly. I must find a better wielder, a better host. Around me are only the dead and dying. I hear their souls retreating from this world.
Yeah, I wonder why they're dead, Aatrox.
The fighting has not ended. It's moved inside the city walls. I force my new shape, limping, crawling, toward the sound of battle, toward a better host. I roar, but not in triumph, never in triumph. I will drink from that city, but I will achieve only a grotesque mockery of my former glory.
I figure it's more like a swap, something needs to be in the sword, so when he grabs it, he swaps. Yeah, technically, but still I feel like there are rules in there, like he cannot let go of the sword. He must beat with the sword, you know, it's like an extension.
I was shaped by the stars and the purity of my aspect. I was light and reason given shape. I defended this world in the greatest battle ever known.
Yeah, like straight up, now that you know the story, imagine how bad Aatrox must feel. Like, actually he's a villain, which I understand. Straight up, he was a golden warrior. He was defending the world from the evil. The fact that he was a golden warrior was carefully arranged by Celestials and Targonians, who are basically demigods and gods. So they set him on this path to fight the void. Thus he got slightly corrupted, slightly, by the void. Then they removed the void, but part of the void is still living inside Aatrox. Shurima, as the empire, his home country, is collapsing because Zerath decided to do the top 10 enemy betrayals and backstabbed Azir and killed a guy. So there goes your empire, there goes your home. There is no enemy, there is no home. What do you do? Consider the fact that you're OP as fuck. And you have a bit of a madness in you growing from all that fighting. You have a bit of a PTSD. You start to do the thing. You start killing everyone. Start fighting, you know, that's what you do. And then a fucking child traps you in a sword and you cannot die. Instead of actually killing you, giving you that blissful death, you are trapped, you cannot die. So yeah, maybe Aatrox is not the bad guy after all, chat.
Now, blood and ichor drips from this.
Was Zerath Azir story before or after the Zerath? At the same time. Because they were sent out to deal with... Yeah, because Azir was not yet an emperor. While Ikafia was already afraid. Yeah, the empire of Ikafia. Yeah. Shurima, Ikafia in here. Azir is about to become an emperor, well, anytime soon. Ikafia says, you know, the Shurima's expanding way too fast, we need to deal with them. They call the Void. Shurima sending all of their MVP players to deal with the Void, because there's a war. Thus, Aatrox and the squad are going in, and while they are fighting, I imagine this is when it's happening, or maybe slightly even after the fight. Maybe, but basically they're close. I'd say these events are very close.
Stolen flesh as it decays. The
Solani's at fault. We're still coping for Solani to be released as a champion.
muscles and bones struggle, tear, and protest the abomination I have become. I take a breath. No, Aatrox, I say, my voice wet and echoing of the dead that surround me. We will go onward, and onward, and onward, until the final oblivion comes. And just in case you didn't believe me, it's right here. I was shaped by stars and the purity of my aspect. It is likely that the Sunborn or the Darkin were created by the Targonians to help them in their conquest against the Void. But before we go into the final piece of the Darkin lore, we should talk about Varus.
Precious. Every single time I see Varus, I'm just concerned.
Varus, V-A-R-U-S. Your name should have an A and then another A. Varus. There was a memo, Varus. There was a memo.
My guy, Mr. King Beppo.
You all agreed on the double A thing, Varus. The double A thing.
There was a memo, exactly. There was a memo, Varus.
His lore was also changed, so let's have a look at what happened to him. Regardless of what he would later become, Varus was once a paragon of loyalty and honor, a skilled archer in the ancient Shuriman Empire. He was appointed as a temple warden in the eastern states, and he held his duty sacred above all else. During the earliest stages of the war with Icathia, even though it lay far from that cursed place, Varus's homeland was attacked. While other wardens abandoned their posts to join the defense of the outlying villages, he alone remained, screaming in anguish with every arrow he loosed, for he had chosen to uphold his oaths rather than return home to protect his own family. Emissaries from the ascended host found him kneeling in solemn meditation amid the corpses of his foes. It was said that his cold gaze unsettled even the god warriors themselves, and yet, in recognition of his noble sacrifice, Varus was offered a place in their ranks.
Wait, what? They're making him a ascendant as well? Didn't know that? I thought he was just a guy, bro. Well, technically 2 guys in the Darkin.
As one of the great ascended, he was utterly consumed by his pursuit of vengeance against the Icathians and the voidling horrors they had unleashed. It is likely that Varus did not even fully comprehend Shurima's ultimate victory in that war. So twisted had his mind become, nor the Empire's fall centuries later. Atrocity after atrocity blurred together, leaving him as a withdrawn colors killer, reshaped and sent into battle countless times by his degenerate brethren. Their name became feared throughout the known world. The Darkin, warring among themselves, they destroyed any other who stood against them. With his crystalline bow, Varus assassinated enemy commanders and champions, helping the Darkin defeat entire mortal armies with ever greater ease. Eventually, Varus was cornered by Vastayan moonstalkers and human mages in service of a golden armored warrior queen of Valoran. They bound him within his bow, leaving him to howl in impotent rage. By then, the raw corrupting influence of the Darkin was known. And yet, still the queen chose to wield the deadly weapon in the final days of the war, gladly
No, the smartest decision.
sacrificing herself for a greater victory. In the months that followed, the queen carried Varus to the First Lands, those that would be later known as Ionia. Now,
Wait, so, hold on. No, the Strangdal, where's the map? So, Varus' story as a Shurima on the east side. East side here, yeah. He didn't know about the war, but technically he was participating in it, technically, yeah, they won. And then my guy decided to end up in Ionia as a form in the bow. Thanks to that queen. What queen? I've got no idea, but ate the more you know.
made monstrous by the bow's power. Her last act was to command her fellows to bury her alive in the lightless well, sunk deep beneath a mountain temple overlooking the village of Pallas. And there, Varus was imprisoned, both by the natural magics of Ionia and
But at least something, you know? At least we are hiding the weapon, we're hiding the Darkin right now. Not like, I don't think that's what happened with Aatrox.
the ritual ministrations of the temple guardians. And after that, we all know what happened.
Didn't see this trailer. I'm pretty sure people didn't see the trailer. But anyway, we're running out of time, Saj.
So now it's time to have a look at the legend of the Darkin, the final piece of the Darkin lore. The Darkin are thrice cursed, once by the ancient enemy they faced, again by the fall of their glorious empire, and finally by the betrayal that had damned them for all eternity. When the rebels of Icathia foolishly unleashed the Void in battle, Shurima's defense was led, as ever, by the legendary Ascended. Imbued with the power of the Sun Disk, These god warriors towered over mortal soldiers.
Now, I've got only one question. Nasus and Renekton are ascended as well. Why they didn't become Darken? Okay, granted, Renekton was tasked with the mission of guarding Zeraph's prison, because Zeraph was imprisoned, and Renekton went a bit of a loco in there because he got corrupted by Zeraph. But Nasus, what was Nasus doing? Rammus do what? No, Rammus just a armadillo. What? No way Rammus is ascended, bro.
Wielding magic and blade with equal ease, and eventually they were victorious. Even so, the horrors of the war took a heavy toll, and those who lived to remember it were perhaps never quite as they once were.
Rammus is from Shurima, but there's no way he's ascended. Nasus is already immortal, I think. Yeah, he was ascended, but why he didn't become Darken? That's the question I have.
Centuries later, with the loss of mighty Azir at the very moment of his ascension, Shurima fell.
Rammus' story is that nobody knows where he comes from and where he goes. He should meet up with Dr. Mundo. He could learn a thing or two where to go.
Although apparently immortal, the god warriors had been born human. Gradually, with no emperor to lead them, many of the surviving ascended began to falter in purpose as their older petty ambitions resurfaced. They taught themselves forbidden sorceries, and came to view themselves as the rightful inheritors of the world. Notice that the story mentions the Darkin teaching themselves forbidden sorceries.
True that. Also, I imagine if, in the story, Noxus expands to Shurima a little bit, you know? Because as far as I'm concerned, in the map, Noxus has already taken a good chunk of Shurima in here, just a little bit, you know? Just a little bit. Not much. But if they expand a bit further, and they find Darkens, Noxus's entire policy is strength above all. So if you have the power, you rank up. Just what if they find Darken? And you know, then say to Darken, you know guys, how about we join Noxus and we conquer the planet? How about that angle?
This is likely blood magic, and it is the reason why they have all sorts of shapes. There is even a piece of art describing what they did with the magic, crafting their own flesh and armor with equal ease, until they were completely unrecognizable as the noble warriors they had once been.
Imagine Darius with a Darken weapon. Oh, that'll be so epic.
The sacred mortal populace named these tyrants Darkin, a whispered curse translating roughly in the old tongue as the Fallen. But even the Darkin could not escape the sickness of soul that had come from fighting against the Void for so long. After centuries of uneasy alliance, they inevitably turned against one another, and so began the Great Darkin War. This conflict spread from Shurima to Valoran and beyond. The renegade god warriors and the armies they raised were unstoppable, and then
Also, that's Darius getting wrecked in here. Bro, I saw this picture of Rust doing things, but I never realized it's Darius in here. Okay, yeah, so I take everything back when I said Noxus finding Darkens. I guess that plan didn't work out.
entire nations were crushed between them. It seemed as though this would be the end of all things. Until, unexpectedly, the mages of Runeterra learned how to contain the remaining Darkin. Through secrecy and cunning artifice, the physical forms of the Ascended could be merged with the celestial power in their hearts, and all of it bound within the weapons they bore. With their leaders imprisoned forever, the rampaging hordes were broken and slain. These Darkin weapons were hidden, many of them carefully guarded by the mortal civilizations that grew in the aftermath.
What do you mean hidden? The newest champion we're about to get in League of Legends is Naafiri. It's a Darkin in a dagger, who was found by a dog or a wolf in forest somewhere. What do you mean hidden? What do you mean guarded, bro?
For it was clear that such power could be locked away, but never destroyed. And should such power fall into the wrong hands, the Darkin will surely rise once more. And that's it for the Darkin. I hope you enjoyed this little trip through this massive chunk of Runeterra's history. What is that? Twilight of the Gods? Well, that story is a little bit longer and far more detailed, so it
What is Twilight of the Gods?
would take a lot more time to cover. So we will do a separate video on that. Now,
Nice.
that's gonna be it for this video though. So if you liked this new format, you know what to do. Our social media, everything, you know what to do. I don't even have to tell you. So I
True
guess I will thank our patrons as they are scrolling through this side now. But I guess, as always, thank you come again.
And that's the video. Yeah, chat, as I was saying, when it comes down to lore in League of Legends, in the world of Runeterra, Necrit is your boy. Yeah, straight up, he is the boy. He is the guy. He is the guy who knows the guy. He is the guy. You know? And that's the video.